I think I said to you I wanted to be an actor and a singer, but because of my dyslexia, I could never read the scripts. I could never audition out loud. It was just such a hot mess. So I'd have to learn lines and things like that to be able to, pull it off. But anyway, I did these plays at school and I loved them. And one particular one, Pippin, I was Big Bertha. A couple of family members came with a family friend. And after the show, they took me to a bar and we drank. They bought me drinks. I was 15. I got pretty drunk, I've got to say. The family member was someone that visited us quite a lot, and this particular person used to do things for me. I think you'd actually call it grooming now in today's terminology. He would do me favours. He would treat me like I was a special person. He would sneak me alcohol, and he would feed me his wine or beer, if we were having a family lunch. I was being groomed. He would flirt with me, let's just say that. He was 6 or 7 years older than me. He was hilarious. He was so funny. You could say that there was a lot of trust there. So in this state of being pretty drunk, there was, the lights were on and no one was home, I guess. And the family wanted to leave, and this family friend wanted to stay at the bar for longer and convinced me that I needed to stay with him, and convinced the family that I was safe with him. I was underage, I was 15. This family friend took me home in a taxi not long after, and when we got home, he asked me to come back to where he lived. And I said no, I needed to go inside. And then he asked if he could get out and take me for a walk in the park that was next to my mother's house. And he was insistent. We got out of the taxi and he walked me into the park where he raped me. He then took me to my mother's house, knocked on the door, and left. My mother let me in, saw my state, and put me in a shower and washed me down. She then told me not to go to school for the next week. This family friend came back during that week and I froze, and he did it again. And I remember he used the words, "This is what love is." And I just froze. After he did what he did, I remember sitting in the sitting room where Mum had several photo frames of family and friends and things like that, and I just started throwing them at him. And he left. I never saw him again. He never visited. He never came to a lunch. We never spoke his name. I stopped eating. I was at boarding school, and when they noticed that I wasn't eating, they would, I wouldn't say force, but make sure I was eating. So then I started to make myself throw up. And then I started to become more fabulous. and I think I suppressed the whole memory. I didn't remember any of it or couldn't connect to any of it. And my false self became even more magnified. I became hell-bent on winning every athletic game, being the best at netball, being the best in our social circumstance, and being very extreme in social situations, being risky, going to the pub underage, dressing up, being very provocative. I was still at school and we were sneaking out of the boarding house and going to nightclubs. When we were 17, we watched the movie The Accused, where Jodie Foster is raped by 5 men on a pinball machine. And that whole memory triggered everything for me, and I lost the plot. I became erratic, I was crying, I was lashing out, and I admitted what had happened to me. And at that point, I was having panic attacks at school, I was fainting at school. I was running 1,000,000 miles an hour and I had nothing in my system. I was a full-blown bulimic. Every meal I had, I was throwing up. And I was at this point now, this was 2 years of living like this, I could just throw up without even putting my fingers down my throat. But I couldn't tell anyone about it, but everybody knew because I think I stank of vomit. And people could hear me making myself sick. But there was so much shame around all of this that it was just never discussed. Until I had this outrageous reaction to watching The Accused. And the boarding house mistress got involved and I was sent to a psychiatrist. I saw the psychiatrist and it was on the second visit that I admitted what had happened to me, that I had been raped. And legally, when there's a sexual violence crime, at that point the doctor had to inform the parents. I don't think the law was that it had to be informed to the police at that time. It is now the law. And my psychiatrist informed my mother and father. And the reaction of them was to stop paying the bills. And I turned up for the 3rd time and I was turned away because of non-payment from my parents. And I rang my mother, who then blamed my father for not paying and how terrible it was. But that I had the strength to get through this and that everything would be fine, darling. Courage and a quiet mind, darling, and you'll be fine. You'll get through this. And I got off the phone. The rape was never discussed. My food disorder was never discussed, but my family knew about it. And I lived with that shame and I suppressed it deep, deep, deep inside. And I think I made myself sick for years.